Desert Tuskens. Desert Tuskens are the most well-known type of Tusken Raiders, and they're the ones we see the most in Star Wars canon. These guys live in the harsh dune seas of Tatooine and are all about survival. They wear thick robes and full-face masks to protect themselves from the twin suns, sandstorms, and brutal heat. You probably recognize them from A New Hope when they attack Luke Skywalker near his land speeder. They see outsiders as threats, especially moisture farmers, which is why they've clashed with people like Anakin Skywalker and even Boba Fett. In the book of Boba Fett, we see a deeper look into their culture. Turns out they have a whole society with rituals, combat training, and a deep spiritual connection to the desert. They train with gaffy sticks, ride banthas, and believe the Dune Sea was once covered in water. These aren't just random raiders, they're survivors with a purpose. Sea Tuskens. Sea Tuskens are a rare branch of Tusken Raiders that live near Tatooine's few remaining bodies of water, like the areas around the oasis of the Nar Sea. Unlike the desert clans, these Tuskens adapt to wetter, slightly less hostile environments. Though less hostile, on Tatooine still means brutal. Their robes are slightly different, made to resist humidity instead of just heat. They also use water harvesting tech more effectively, and some are even rumored to trade with Jawas or off-worlders, which is basically unheard of for desert clans. There's not a ton of canon info on them, but they were first mentioned in Star Wars, Galaxy's Edge materials. While not seen on screen yet, their existence shows how the Tusken culture isn't one-size-fits-all. It's super likely that if we get more stories about Tatooine, especially from different points of view, these Sea Tuskens might show up and shake things up a bit. Forest Tuskens. Forest Tuskens are a lesser-known and pretty mysterious variant of the Tusken Raiders. They don't live on Tatooine, because let's be real, there are zero forests there, but instead, they've shown up in Star Wars Legends content on planets with dense vegetation like Yinker or even some outer rim moons. Their gear is adapted to forest life, lighter clothing for mobility, camouflaged wrappings, and weapons made from local materials rather than metal scavenged tech. These Tuskens still hold on to traditional beliefs like tribal loyalty and rites of passage, but their survival tactics are totally different. Instead of banthas, they've been seen riding local beasts or even moving silently through trees to ambush intruders. While they're not canon yet, they show how flexible Tusken culture can be when placed in new environments. Imagine a Tusken who's trained in stealth instead of brute strength. These guys could easily show up in a future Star Wars series or comic. Canyon Tuskens. Canyon Tuskens live in the deep, rocky canyons of Tatooine, like the Junlin Wastes where we first saw them ambush Luke Skywalker in A New Hope. These Tuskens use the high ground, literally, to their advantage. They're masters of ambush tactics, setting traps and using the echoing canyon walls to confuse travelers. Their robes are reinforced for climbing sharp rock and surviving sudden drops in temperature. Unlike desert clans that roam the open sands, Canyon Tuskens prefer permanent hideouts tucked into cliff sides, making it nearly impossible to find them unless they want to be found. In the book of Boba Fett, we see some Tusken groups living in rocky terrain, which might have been a blend of desert and canyon clans. These Tuskens are often the first to attack outsiders traveling between moisture farms and cities like Mos Eisley. They've adapted to the terrain like pros, and their ambush skills are no joke. Urban Tuskens. Urban Tuskens are a really rare sight, but they've started popping up more in modern Star Wars canon. These are Tusken Raiders who've either left their tribes or been displaced, and now live on the outskirts of Tatooine cities like Mos Espa or Mos Eisley. You might have caught glimpses of them in the book of Boba Fett, walking through the streets in their full gear, still wearing their robes and masks even in urban environments. They're usually quiet, sticking to their own spaces and traditions, but they're not as hostile as the traditional desert clans. Some have even learned to trade or communicate with outsiders, a massive deal for a culture that usually rejects anything not part of the way. While they don't fully integrate, they're adapting just enough to survive in a city setting. Think of them as cultural outcasts or exiles, still Tusken, but figuring out how to live in a world that's constantly changing. Nomadic Tuskens. Nomadic Tuskens are kind of the default image people have when they think of Tusken Raiders, but there's a specific difference. These clans don't stay in one region or type of terrain. They're constantly moving across Tatooine, from dunes to canyons, following band the herds, water sources, or avoiding rival tribes. Their lifestyle is 100% about survival and tradition. We see this in The Mandalorian when Din Djarin teams up with a roaming tribe to hunt the Krayt dragon. They weren't tied to one place, just wherever the need took them. Nomadic Tuskens are super traditional, following ancient rites like forging their own gaffy sticks and marking important events with ceremonial dances. They're also the most likely to run into off-worlders, which is why they get the Savage Raider label by people like the Moisture Farmers. But behind that rep is a people who've survived for generations by knowing when to move and when to fight.